We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, YouTube streaming, and also via Skype. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming from our studios in Trinidad. Sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Tantra is based on heart. We are taking the first sutra, which says, be the unsame same to friends as to strangers in honor and dishonor. Duality is used everywhere. The opposites are used, not duality. Opposites are used. Unsame and same. There is something which never changes in you, that remains same, and there is certain things which changes, unsame. Then we are interacting with friends or strangers, and we engage in honor and dishonor. Sometimes you are interacting with a friend in honor, other times in dishonor. The same thing applies to you when you are interacting with a stranger in honor and dishonor. Same and unsame, there is something that never changes. What never changes? Something inner that never changes in you. Be the unsame same. This is the basis. What is happening in you? Two things are happening simultaneously. Something in you remains continuously the same. It never changes. You may not have observed this, but it never changes. You may not have observed it. You may not have encountered it yet. But if you observe, you will know that something in you remains continuously the same. Because of that sameness, you can have an identity, a continuity. Because of that sameness, you feel yourself centered. Otherwise, you will be in a chaos. So whenever we feel the sameness, observe it, we are centered. You say, my childhood, my childhood. Now, what has remained of it? You have grown. You was wearing as a child short pants. Now you are wearing long pants. As a child, you never had the beard and mustache grown. Now it has grown. Why do you say my childhood? Now, what has remained of the childhood in you? Then you say youth. What has remained of your youth? The physical appearance changes and so many things. And who says my childhood? Who is this my, me and I? My childhood, me, I. Nothing of the childhood has remained in you now. If your picture of childhood are shown to you for the first time, you will not be able to recognize them. It is the parent who say that it is your picture. You cannot recognize your childhood pictures. Everything has changed. Your body is no more the same. Not even a single cell has remained intact or same. Not even a single cell has remained the same, because cells are continuously degenerating and new cells are coming into existence. This is a continuous process that is happening. Psychologists say body is a flux. It is river-like, constantly changing. Every moment, many cells are dying and new cells are taking place. So this is river-like. Water is continuously flowing. Heraclitus says you cannot enter the same river twice. You cannot meet the same person twice. Every moment new cells, many cells are dying and new cells are born. Within 7 years, your body has changed. Every 7 years the body changes, the psychology changes. So if you are going to live 70 years, 10 times over the period of time, your body renews itself. Your body renews itself every 7 years. That is why it is said the 7-year cycles. With the change in the body, the psychology changes and so many other things changes. So first 7 years, as far as the existential bioenergy is concerned, it is 0-6. You are not aware of anything. You are simply interested in exploring your body. An infant plays with his genitals. Once diaper is removed, the child plays with his genitals. He has no guilt feeling in him as yet, so he does it without any guilt feeling. The moment he grows a little bit, 4 or 5 years, he wants to do the same, play with his genitals, explore them, so he hides and does it in the bathrooms, or mostly in most of the cases it is done in the bathroom. Parents, the father has done the same thing, but he does not want his child, does not understand the psychology behind it. So every 7 years the body changes, and with that psychology changes. Every moment your body is changing, but the change is in such a way that you cannot visualize change. You cannot see, because of that change, how the psychology is also changing. Every moment body is changing, and with that your mind. You cannot recognize a photograph of your childhood. And if it were possible to give you a photograph of your mind, of your childhood mind, if we could somehow do that, it would be impossible to recognize it. Your mind is even more of a flux. The psychologists say body is a flux, but mind is also flux. Every moment everything changes. Even for a single moment, nothing remains the same. No wonder why Heraclitus said, you cannot enter the same river twice. You cannot meet the same person again. But Your vision is totally different. When I say someone, you can never meet me again, I want to know, why do you say so? Because I am constantly growing and you are constantly growing physically and psychologically, but you cannot see, visualize this change that is happening at this speed. Every moment, the bud that you see is not the same. It is in a process of continuous growth. But to you, the bud seems stationary. It is not. It is growing every moment. Moment to moment, your body is growing, your psychology is growing. Your mind is even more of a flux than your body. Every moment, something changes. The old vanishes, new takes place. Even for a single moment, nothing remains the same. In the morning, you were different. As far as your mind is concerned, in the evening, you are a totally different person. This is a long gap of 12 hours. But one moment, between the two moments, you will not remain the same. When someone would come to meet Buddha, before the person would depart, take leave of him, Buddha will say, remember, the man who has come to meet me is not the man who is going from here. Now, you look at it according to your own cognition. Maybe you may think that whatever Buddha said, maybe his one word, maybe one sentence, has been remarkable. It has touched your heart. You have taken it by the heart. It is not so. Because the body is a flux, the mind is a flux, so is the psychology. The person who came, just as a river is not stationary, it is water that is flowing between two boundaries, two shores that comprise the river bed. River is a very technical word. There are two shores. Between them there is a bed that is known as river bed. And in that, if you remove the water, what remains there? What you will you call it a river or dry river or whatever it is? It is river bed. Controlled between the two shores. And when the river bed is there, whatever flows is river. So the two shores, the river bed, the water that flows, all that comprise river. And water is continuously flowing. It is not stationary. So you cannot enter, as Heraclitus says, the same river twice. So the person who came to Buddha was one, and when he is going after the meeting, he is different, because during the time when the meeting took place, the communion happened between that person and Buddha. Much water has flown under the bridge. Much air has blown. So, the person who came to meet him is not the same who is going back. you will understand your way. When someone would come to meet Buddha, before the person would depart, take leave of him, Buddha would say, remember, the man who came to meet me is not the same who is going back. You are totally different now. Your mind has changed. Meeting with the Buddha is, of course, bound to change your mind to better or worst. Your cognition, your understanding changes, but you cannot be the same. You came here with a different mind. Each time when you come to the live streaming, you come with a certain mind, and when you go with a different mind. Something has touched you, something has changed, something has been added, something has been deleted, and even if you are not meeting anyone, if you just remain by yourself, then too you cannot remain the same. As I said, in the morning you are a different person, in the evening you are a different person. Next moment you will not be the same. But the change is happening at such a pace that you cannot, nothing, no equipment can capture it. No device can capture the change that is taking place. A bud is continuously growing in its beauty, it is continuously opening. But can you see it? You see only when it has opened in such a way that your eyes can capture it. So is the case with the change. Though the change is happening continuously, but your eyes are not capable, your cognition is not capable of capturing that. Heraclitus said, you cannot step twice the same river. The same can be said about a man. You cannot meet the same man again. It is impossible. So when you are interacting with persons, with people, you have to understand that there is an unsame and there is same. You are meeting a friend or a stranger. You are meeting in honor and dishonor. This is what the sutra says. Be the unsame same. Something has changed and something has not changed. And because of this fact, and because of our ignorance of it, it is a fact, but we are ignorant about it, the life becomes misery. Because you go on expecting the other to be the same. You are changing, but you expect the other to remain the same. You marry a girl, you marry a boy, and you expect him or her to remain the same. The body is flux, the mind is flux, which is continuously undergoing transformation, change. Both he or she cannot be the same. Unmarried, she was different. Now, unmarried, you were different. Married, you are different. You cannot expect your lover to meet you through your husband. or through your wife. Everything has changed, but you go on expecting your beloved, your girlfriend instead of your wife, your boyfriend instead of your husband. This creates misery, unnecessary misery because of our ignorance. If we can recognize this fact that mind goes on moving and changing continuously, we will escape many miseries that we encounter on a moment-to-moment basis. All you need a single awareness that mind is a flux that goes on changing. Someone loves you and you go on expecting love, but the next moment the person hates you. Love and hate are two sides of the same coin. Then you are disturbed. One moment your spouse is very loving to you, next moment it is not. One moment you give a hug, it is warm, next moment it is not. If you have been sensitive to the hugs, you will know each time the hug does not remain of the same intensity, same nature, then it is you are bound to be disturbed. Not because of the hate, but only because of your expectation. The person has changed. The person is alive, and anything that is alive, only the dead does not change. Even death changes, decomposes. The person has changed. He is alive, and so the change is bound to happen. But if you can see the reality as it is, you will not be disturbed. The one who was in love a moment before will be in hate next moment. Attraction and repulsion happens continuously. How can it be possible? How can it be possible one moment he was loving, next moment he is not? One moment he loves, next moment he hates. Use your intelligence. You are hungry. You are thirsty. You need water to quench your thirst. So, are you not loving to the water? Are you not receiving the water in a different way? You receive the cup that contains the water in a different way, and when your quenches thirst, even if there is remaining some water, will there not be repulsion? You are hungry. The platter of the food is in front of you. It is welcoming. The moment you are satiated, whatsoever remains on the plate is not welcoming. It is part of the same delicious food or the dessert or an appetizer that was very welcoming in the moment of your hunger. Now your hunger is satiated and it is no more welcoming. But this is momentary. The welcome was momentary, the repulsion was momentary, then again after some time when the cycle changes, you may, if there isn't anything whatsoever you have left in the plate, you like the warm food, whatsoever you have left that has become cold, that will still be welcoming. The second time you will welcome it again, because again, as the cycle moves, you are hungry again, you want to eat something. So the same thing happens with love. One moment you are loving to your spouse, next moment you are repulsive. So that repulsion is called, you can term it in a way as hate. So this continuously happens. One moment later, he will be in love again. One moment you will appreciate, you will welcome the same platter that has left over some food which you could not finish in the first instance. So don't be in a hurry, just be patient. And if the other can also see the changing patterns, then there will not be fighting for changing patterns. The change is natural phenomenon. The welcome and repulsion of the food is a natural phenomenon. So, if you look at your body, it changes. Your nature of the appetite also changed. One moment when it needed the food was welcoming. When you are satiated, the food is no more welcoming. Instead, it is repulsive. See how you welcome when you are hungry. You receive the platter full of food, and when you are finished, when your hunger is satiated, how apathic you become to that platter that was once welcoming to you. It changes. It is never the same. Even for 2 consecutive moments, nothing remains the same. Your personality goes on like a flux, continuously changes. If this is all, there is nothing which remains the same continuously, eternally, timelessly, then who will remember that if changes continuously? Changes continuously, eternally, timelessly, then who is there to say that this was my childhood? In my childhood, childhood has changed. The body has changed. Your body is not that of a child. The mind has changed. Then who is the one who remembers my childhood, my youth? Then who knows about childhood, about your youth, and about the old age? Who knows? When the body is continuously in a flux, the mind is in a continuous flux, every 2 consecutive moments, nothing remains the same, then who is saying that? There is unsame and same. Be the unsame same. This moment must remain the same. There is nothing changes over the period of time. What is this that never changes in you? Is your consciousness, is your witness. that remains the same. Only then can witness have a perspective. The witness can say, or you can say consciousness will say, witness, better to use the word for practical purposes here, witness. There is something that consciousness has witnessed change in you, and it remembers it. It was not somebody else's childhood, it was my childhood. This picture is my childhood picture. The witness can say, this was my childhood and this was my youth. This was my old age. This moment I am in love, and this moment the love has changed into hatred. This witnessing consciousness, this knower, is always same. It never changes. The body is a flux that changes, unseen. The mind is in a flux, changes, unseen. But there is a witnessing consciousness that remains the same. So the two words, love and hate, go together. The unsame same. The unsame same. So this witnessing consciousness is the axle. The wheel is put onto it. Axle remains stationary, the wheel moves. And because of that wheel, the distance is covered, time gathers momentum, but it is happening. Everything is happening on that axle which never changes, which remains forever same. Witnessing consciousness. This is the knower and always remains the same. You have two realms or two dimensions existing together in you. You are both. The changing, which is always changing, and there is something which is never changing. Wheel is not, one wheel has, the wheel by itself, it is when it is put on the axle, only when it is connected to the axle, then the vehicle gets the movement, then the movement is possible. So you have two realms or two dimensions existing together simultaneously. You are both. The changing, which is always changing continuously every moment, and there is something which is unchanging, non-changing, that never changes, instead always remains the same. If you become aware of these two realms, then this particular technique, this particular sutra will be meaningless in your life. Be the unsame same. Remember this. Be the unsame same. You are bound to be unsame. On the periphery, change is happening on the periphery, but at the center you remain the same. And that is the reason that you can say, my childhood, my youth, my old age. Two things continuously happen, periphery and center. Center is connected to the periphery through the radius. This is the technique. If you understand this, then be the unsame same. Remember this. Be the unsame same. You are bound to remain unsame. Unsame means ever changing. You are not remaining the same. On the periphery, center, you cannot have any movement. In order to have the movement, you have to come out of your center. Take, for instance, your bedroom is your center. You have to come out from there to have your meals, to take a shower, to go to the restroom, to go to work, to go for a walk. These are peripheries. You must come out of your center in order to interact with the person. But you remember, you are connected to the center, to the same that remains, that is the witnessing consciousness. You develop that center within you, and when you come out of that center onto the periphery, you are meeting someone. Remember that which is the same. Just remembering that there is something that never changes. Just remembering will be enough. You need not do anything else for it. It is non-changing. You have to be remembering that this is a center. This circumference is connected to a particular center. If you change the center, the same circumference will not be there. But from that center, varying the radius, you can draw another circumference. From that center, you can draw as many circumferences as you wish. This happens. How does it happen? You develop a circumference with your workers. You remain the same. Circumference is different because you are dealing in a different manner. Center remains the same. You draw another circumference for your spouse, another circumference for your children, another circumference you draw when you are reaching to your kitchen. But you remain, there is something amidst all these different activities that you perform. There is something that never changes. The circumference is changing, that remains. One moment before, you were a chef creating the dish in the kitchen. Next moment, you are a lover in bed with your spouse. Next moment, you are a mother, a sister, a brother, a friend to someone. You are in the office dealing with your subordinates, your seniors. These are all changing realms. But whether you were acting as a chef or an ordinary cook or as a spouse, there is something that remains the same. Be the unsame same. Be the unsame same. Remember that which is same. You do not have to do anything else. You need not do anything else. Just remembrance that there is something that never changes in you. It is non-changing. You cannot change it. You cannot change your witnessing consciousness, but you can forget it. You can be so engrossed, obsessed with the changing phenomena around you, with your body, with your mind, that you may completely forget the center. Does this not happen? Every moment this happens. The center is so much clouded by the changing flux. And of course, it is clouded by the changing flux. And of course, there are problems. That which is continuously the same is difficult to remember because of the changing phenomena, or change creates problem. Things are changing on the surface, and that creates the problem, and you forget the center. When you are angry, you forget who you are. You get angry. If someone tries to remind you, you said, forget about it, let me get angry first. This is, for example, if a continuous noise goes on around you, you will not be aware of it. If a clock on the wall goes on ticking, the tick-tock whole day, you are never aware of it. But suddenly, if it stops, you immediately become aware of the clock. If something is continuously the same, there is no need to take any notice. When something changes, suddenly the mind has to take note of it. You never take notice of the clock. You never take notice of the breathing. You become aware of it only the moment there is difficulty in the breathing. It creates, when something changes, the mind has to take notice of it. This change creates a gap, and the pattern vibrates. You were hearing the sound continuously, so there was no need to hear it. But the moment it stops, it was there. It was part of the background sound. But now it has suddenly stopped, and you become aware of it. Your consciousness will suddenly come to the gap. We will continue this in the next session. Until then, take care. Do have a pleasant day.